Right now on Brooklyn News Live, the latest on the war in Iran as it now reaches day 26. The latest update on what the U.S. calls ongoing ceasefire talks. Plus, breaking news, we're awaiting a press conference to come at any moment after a jury found YouTube and Meta liable of violating children's safety. That's coming up. Plus, lines at airports continue to grow as the Department of Homeland Security remains shut down. What Democrats and Republicans are now saying, and a solution, possible at least, to the funding fight. And it's a beautiful day to step outside right here in Brooklyn. We'll have your forecast coming up later this hour, right here, right now, on this edition of Brooklyn News Live.
Brooklyn News Live starts right now with breaking news.
Alrighty, good to be with you. I'm Jackson Mitchell. It's Wednesday, March 25th, 2026, and there for sure is never a shortage of news. Therefore, that we are going to start first with some breaking news that we've just gotten in, really just within the last few hours, and that takes us out to this camera that we have for you in Los Angeles. A jury finding Instagram and YouTube liable in a landmark social media addiction trial. Here's what we know right now. That jury that found Meta and YouTube liable said that both companies, quote, engineered addiction and awarded $3 million in damages to a 20-year-old plaintiff. The jury ruled that the companies' addictive design practices like infinity scrolls and autoplay significantly harmed the plaintiff's mental health. Now, this landmark verdict sets a precedent for thousands of pending cases, with a jury now considering punitive damages for the company's egregious conduct. Now, we are going to talk about another one of those landmark social media cases, and it looks like maybe some of the camera people are getting ready maybe for somebody to walk out of the building. This is the Los Angeles Superior Court. So if they do, we're going to stick with this camera for just a moment, because it appears as if those camera people that stepped forward are prepping for something, and you see all the mics set up, meaning we could hear a press conference. Unclear if we're going to hear it from YouTube and Meta, or we are going to hear it from this 20-year-old plaintiff that ended up winning this case. Now, again, what I was noting before we saw kind of those camera people move forward is we're also going to talk about another case where Meta, who actually owns Instagram, Facebook, Threads, was ordered to pay $375 million. That's another case, and we're going to talk about that coming up later in the show. So stick with us for that conversation. We're going to keep monitoring this camera, and if we do see something come at any moment, we will take you there immediately. Again, we'll keep our eye very close on this camera, but we do have tons of headlines we want to get to you in this hour, so we're going to bring you an update right now on the latest on the war in Iran as it now encroaches on day 26.
Dismantling Iran's defense industrial base, which will prevent future threats to the region. Our military also remains laser-focused on eliminating the regime's threat to the free flow of energy through the Strait of Hormuz. Over the weekend, we dropped several 5,000-pound bombs on an underground facility used to store equipment, including anti-ship cruise missiles and mobile missile launchers positioned along the coastline of the strait. Our military efforts grow more successful with each passing day, steadily degrading Iran's ability to terrorize merchant ships. For all of these reasons, we are very close to meeting the core objectives of Operation Epic Fury, and this military mission continues unabated. From the outset, President Trump and the Department of War estimated it would take approximately 4 to 6 weeks to achieve this critical mission. 25 days in, the greatest military the world has ever known is ahead of schedule and performing exceptionally. Day by day, the Iranian regime is being crippled, and their ability to threaten the United States and our allies is being significantly weakened. Their ambitions of building a nuclear weapon have also been crushed to an even greater degree than they were in Operation Midnight Hammer in June 2025. That's why you're beginning to see
Excuse me, what helped my mic was unmuted. That's the update that we're getting in from the White House. I did not mean to cut it as short as I did. But with the White House now saying that this is the regime change that they wanted. But Caroline Levitt, that was from earlier today. We were actually on the air just before 30 minutes or so before we came here for Brookland News Live. And she was giving an update there at the beginning of the press briefing on where the war in Iran currently stands. Now, this comes as reporting yesterday after we had gotten off the air confirmed that the U.S. plans to send 1,000 paratroopers from the 82nd Airborne Division. I want to show you some reporting coming in from CNN saying, quote, and I can't exactly see it this close, so I'm going to zoom it in for myself here. It says, the contingent, this is the middle paragraph there, the contingent includes Major General Brandon Tegmeyer, commander of the 82nd Airborne Division and division staff, as well as a battalion of the 1st Brigade Combat Team, which is currently acting as the division's immediate response force, or IRF, the sources said. The initial elements of the division, staff, and battalion are expected to begin deploying within a week. So it's the exact deployment date unclear, and actually we want to take you right now to some breaking news. We are just getting in that press conference starting with the plaintiff in this case now being awarded $3 million. Let's turn the audio up.
In the way they designed and operated their platform, they found that Meta failed to give what a reasonable company should give as warnings, and they found that Meta's failure to operate their platform in a reasonably prudent fashion and to warn in a reasonably prudent fashion was a direct cause, substantial contributing factor to harming Kaylee to the tune of $3 million, which is not a rounding error. Then they had a set of questions on YouTube. YouTube's defenses that they were just TV were shunned by the jury, and the jury said that YouTube, Google, failed to operate YouTube in a reasonable fashion. And it's their failure to operate it in a reasonable fashion that held YouTube accountable as well. The jury also said that YouTube failed to give reasonable warnings. So after the jury did that and assessed the damages of $3 million, the jury then at that point answered the question of what percentage of responsibility is there on the two companies based upon the conduct as Kaylee experienced it. And they put 70% on Meta. They put 30% on YouTube. Then they gave findings that both of them acted in ways that constitute conduct that should be punished. And these issues were by and large on a 10-2 vote for most of them. We had 10-2 almost all the way down. And so what do we have now? Now we've got a punishment phase. We put the net worth of both companies in front of the jury. And then having put that net worth there, the lawyers had 20 minutes per side to argue. And we've done that argument, and now the jury goes back to make a decision of whether or not it's appropriate to put a financial fine, a punitive damage figure on this case. And that's what we're waiting for now. And once we get that finding, the jury will be discharged. The judge has indicated she will probably visit with the jury herself, and then she would like some of the lawyers to visit with those jurors who want to stay and visit with lawyers. Then and only then do we come out and are we able to visit with you. Kaylee has asked me that she does not want to get in front of the cameras. She is averse to that, but she did want me to express her appreciation publicly for the work of the court, for the work of the jury, and for the work of the media in helping to recognize what the first social media addiction trial is all about. And that's a very serious issue, not only here to California and the U.S., but to the world. So with that, I'm glad to take a couple of questions.
Why did you not ask for a specific number in the punitive damages? We know that you talked about the 415 peanut M&Ms and talked about a handful not making a difference. But why did you not give a specific number?
The question is, why did I not give a specific number on punitive damages? I have gotten, I don't know, $15, $20 billion plus in punitive damages in my career, and I've never asked for a specific number. So I wouldn't know where to start. I think jurors are pretty smart about that. My goal is to say, here's how much money means to these people. And so in light of that, here's how much you should assess. I say that one time in 2005 against Merck, I told the jury to award $220 million because of fact in that case, and the jury did. But generally, I've never asked them to award punitive damage amounts. I leave that up to them. All right. Okay, these two questions are the same. Let me talk about the message that's sent already. This message is one that's important to Kaylee and her family, but it's of very great importance to a generation of people who have been affected. We've had a number of family members who have been so diligent to be here to lend moral support, prayer support, emotional support during this trial. There are so many families who've been tragically hurt through the addiction of social media. And while we've never been able to talk about the content of what these social media platforms can do, that's protected under the judge's rulings, we have been able to talk about the features. And we've sent a message with this that you will be held accountable for the features, regardless of whether the children are getting sent pornographic pictures, regardless of whether they're being sexploitated, regardless of those types of issues. Just because of the features alone that drive addiction, these companies can be held accountable. That's a huge message for these companies. Yeah. Huh? Yeah. One of the hardest things to do for us ordinary people is to figure out how to speak in economic terms these companies understand. Because these companies, Google's net worth was set in front of the jury by agreement at $415 billion with a B. That's $415,000 million. How on earth do you ever find that entity for what behavior we're talking about here? And so I just took a jar of M&Ms that had 415 M&Ms in it. And I showed it to the jury. And I said, you grab a handful out. You don't even notice they're gone. But that's 20 M&Ms. That's $20 billion to these companies.
What will $3 million indicate?
$3 million, you know, these are interesting, and the public doesn't always know what this money does. First of all, to try this case, look at this sea of people behind me. This sea is just one drop of who we had. We had 40 people down here in 40 hotel rooms for 2.5 months, and all of those types of expenses, along with all of the expert fees, along with everything else, has to come out of the money. And so it's so expensive to pursue a case like this. It takes an army of these incredible lawyers to team up together. These are from different firms. We've got every firm there. We've got the famous Wagstaff and Cartmel firm from Kansas City here. We've got Beasley Allen from Alabama. We've got Morgan & Morgan from every city that's got a billboard. We've got countless law firms here, including my own, because it takes that much money and that much effort. So by the time you put all of that into the formula and you credit some settlements that may have already been come, I'm not sure how much of a difference it makes to Kaylee. That'll have to be an accounting question. But I will tell you, as a result of this, Kaylee's life will be different, and rightfully so. Oh, yeah. They'll appeal this all day long. Yes. How does it feel to get this far?
Like a weight off.
Yeah, these folks behind me, including my sweet daughters to my left and right, these folks behind me have carried a burden of this case for a long, long time. The Social Media Law Center has carried a burden behind this for a long, long time. And I've shouldered some weight of that during the trial with the help of my friends. But it's like this entire, you've seen the photographs of Atlas, with the world on his shoulders. It's like that weight's been set aside, and it's a cause for rejoicing. I'm a man of faith, and so I love the proverb that's found in the Bible that says, the horse is trained for battle, but the victory belongs to the Lord. I feel like what we're about here is something beyond just trying to make a buck, beyond just trying to help Kaylee. I feel like we're about something that is incredibly socially important and responsible. And I feel like we've made a great step forward. And I am thankful to God as I understand Him. I hope you are to God as you understand Him, her, or whatever your faith may be. But this is a righteous event and a righteous moment that makes me proud to be an American and proud to be a lawyer.
Mark, how will this change things? Is this a landmark moment, you feel?
This is a landmark moment. It will reverberate. I'll tell you this. If the jury had returned a no, the champagne corks would be popping in the boardrooms of Google and Meta. But instead, Mark Zuckerberg has to take a phone call. And the only thing he's waiting for now is to find out if there are going to be punishment damages. Yeah. Europe has some unique aspects to it. I know that Europe is tuned in. We've been in a great dialogue with a number of different media sources over in Europe that are dying to know what's going on. And I think that the European government, I think The Hague will be very responsive. I know the individual country governments are responsive. And I think that you're going to see even more legal changes that will alter the landscape of social media attraction and opportunity for those young child developing brains. Yes, Kaylee? Kelly? That's a great question. Inside the company's documents at Meta, they had some people who were asking, one day when all of this stuff gets out, are we going to be the big tobacco? Is that what we are? Are we trying to sow doubt about whether or not this is really damaging, like big tobacco worked for generations to sow doubt about whether or not tobacco really caused?
Alrighty, plaintiff attorney Mark Linder there taking questions after a jury has just found Meta and YouTube liable for addiction. We brought you this at the top of the hour. The big story that we're all following right now is this one, in fact. So the jury ruling that both Meta, both YouTube now must pay $3 million to the plaintiff here, the 20-year-old plaintiff. Her name is Kaylee, I believe, is who they said her name was, and I'm also saying that she wished to not come in front of the cameras. 70% of that will be paid by Meta, the other 30% by YouTube. So we are going to continue to follow this story, and we'll bring you more about it when we get more about it. In the meantime, a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to continue talking about the latest on the war with Iran, and how the Department of Homeland Security is doing amid TSA not being paid, now ICE at airports. Is there a possible solution to all of this? That is when we come back right here in just a few moments. You're watching Brookland News Live on this Wednesday. Alrighty, welcome back here into Brookland News Live, a live look there in Beirut, Lebanon. Of course, where the militant group Hezbollah is located. I believe it was a few weeks ago I had this question in my mind, is why is Beirut so important to all of this? And that is, we ended up showing and bringing it to you guys on Brookland News Live. I believe we showed a clip from NBC News. NBC News is Here's the Scoop podcast on all of that. And why Beirut is because Hezbollah, who is a militant group, is located in Lebanon. So there you go. There's the answer to that question if you've also been asking it still. Okay, so we'll just restart from the top here because I know we kind of had gotten interrupted at the first part of this, covering that big story on the social media addiction trial. Okay, so now we're learning, just yesterday after we had gotten off the air, that the 82nd Airborne Division will send 1,000, paratroopers to the Middle East. We brought you some CNN reporting a few moments ago. I believe we can pull it back up on your screen here, where it talks about who exactly is going to be sent in all of this during the press briefing today with Caroline Levitt. She did not address too much about it. She was asked a question, kind of surfacing this. I think the White House has kind of taken the saying basically that go over to the Pentagon for all of this. Here's Caroline Levitt earlier today on this.
Thank you, Caroline, too, if I may. Speaker Johnson today described the conflict as wrapping up, but the 82nd Airborne Division, they're typically deployed at the beginning of conflicts. So does the White House consider this conflict as wrapping up, or is it changing shape?
As I said at the beginning of my remarks, we are meeting our goals of Operation Epic Fury expeditiously. The president likes to maintain options at his disposal. It's the Pentagon's job to provide those options to the Commander-in-Chief. For any specifics on troop deployments, though, I would point you to the Pentagon.
So Caroline Levitt on all of that and saying, point you to the Pentagon. The Pentagon, to my knowledge from my research before we came on the air, hasn't given any more crazy information on anything that we are able to bring you right now. And I'm actually checking on that right now. So nothing that I'm seeing right now from the Pentagon on that. But we do have sources confirming this. A local news, WXII, who covers Fort Bragg, which is where the 82nd Airborne Division is located, at least a part of it, is also talking about all of this, and they spoke to a retired member, kind of the energy, what the attitude is, as these people had to go all the way to the Middle East in the middle of a war.
82nd Airborne Division soldier who says he knows the emotions that are circulating throughout the base right now.
It's hard. All I can say is it's really hard.
After almost a month of constant conflict between the U.S. and Iran, President Donald Trump is deploying more U.S. troops to the Middle East, and that includes soldiers from right here with the 82nd Airborne Division at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. These soldiers are trained to parachute into hostile territory, and according to reports, the deployment was approved Monday night and is expected to include command staff and some ground forces.
Being in the 82nd Division is a fast pace pretty much. Within like 48 hours, you're pretty much out of there.
Marquise Johnson is a retired 82nd Airborne Division soldier and says deployments are something that comes with the territory, but it's always an unexpected call.
For people that's in, they know it is really fast paced. Like, you can get the word like, hey, we're finna get ready to get deployed. It could be on standby. Then you can find out, oh, well, we're leaving tomorrow. We're leaving in 2 days.
He says this time the call for his family hits a little bit harder.
We seen everything. All this stuff is on TV, and then your partner telling like, hey, I'm part of that too. I gotta get ready and go. I want you to go, but if you're a part of this military life, then you already know what to expect.
Johnson says his message to families like this is simple.
Hold on to your loved ones as close as you can. Say you love them and stuff like that, because you never know what can happen. They may come home, they may not.
Yeah, so that's the exact story. They may come home, they may not. You never know, and that's just kind of the scary thing of having a family that may be a part of the military. Ceasefire talks are continuing. Yesterday, President Trump saying Iran gave a present to the U.S. We actually brought you these comments while we were on the air, but now we're kind of getting some reaction in on all of this. Take a look.
They did something yesterday that was amazing, actually. They gave us a present, and the present arrived today. And it was a very big present worth a tremendous amount of money. And I'm not going to tell you what that present is, but it was a very significant prize. And they gave it to us, and they said they were going to give it. So that meant one thing to me: we're dealing with the right people.
Is that nuclear related?
No, it wasn't nuclear related. It was oil and gas related. And it was a very nice thing they did. But what it showed me is that we're dealing with the right people. Because, you know, you don't know, because the leadership was killed, all gone. Khomeini, all gone. As the expression goes, the past supreme leader.
قدرت راهبردی که از آن دم می‌زدید تبدیل به شکست راهبردی شده. مدعی ابرقدرتی دنیا اگر می‌توانست از این مخمصه رها شود تا حالا شده بود. اسم شکستتان را توافق نگذارید. دوران وعده هایتان به سر رسیده. سطح خود درگیری هایتان به مرحله مذاکره خودتان با خودتان رسیده؟ صراحتاً اعلام می‌کنیم تا موعدی که اراده ما نباشد هیچ وضعیتی به روال سابق بر نمی‌گردد. این اراده زمانی ایجاد می‌شود که به طور کامل فکر اقدام علیه ملت ایران از اذهان کثیف شما پاک شود. حرف اول و آخر ما از همان روز نخست این بوده، هست و خواهد بود. کسی هم شما با کسی مثل شما کنار نخواهد آمد، نه حالا و نه هیچ وقت دیگری.
American citizens, and it's causing real hardship for people. Do you know that there are 450 approximate number this morning? We heard 450 TSA agents who are no longer going to work for the agency. How can you blame them? As Leader Scalise said, 49% of FY26, the fiscal year, they have been unpaid. This is a real hardship for their families and all the travelers. Business travelers, people traveling to go to funerals and weddings and with their families, they can't get through the airports because the Democrats are playing games up here. And you know what? You should ask the ultimate question: why? Why is Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries? Why are they doing this? Why would they? They know this is crazy. They have to know it's crazy to not be able to call this out. Why are they doing it? Because they're afraid of their radical base. Boom. That's it. That's why they gave us the longest shutdown in history. We're on the second longest shutdown in history right now. They are afraid to go to their base and say that they're doing anything that complies with common sense.
So there you go. That is the perspective coming in from Republicans there. Give me just 1 second. I'm checking something out here.
Our goals.
1 second. It looks like we had some audio issues a few moments ago, and I'm actually checking on those. So it looks like we had some audio issues really when we started talking about the war in Iran, and it might have actually been a little bit after that. I do apologize for that. We're going to continue on with our show. Again, that is, we'll recap kind of what we said in those remarks there. I apologize again about that audio technical difficulty that we appeared to have. Okay, lines at airports continuing to grow. That's what we were just talking about. You heard the Republican perspective there. Now I want to play you Democrats' perspective on all of this.
It doesn't have to be this way. Democrats have put forward a proposal that would fund key components of the Department of Homeland Security, including TSA, Coast Guard, FEMA, while we negotiate common sense reforms to ICE. But instead, Donald Trump doubled down on his harmful agenda and said he will only support a shutdown and paying our TSA workers if his partisan voter suppression bill is passed. The American people are worse off under Donald Trump, and they are fed up. In Congress, we are the people's representatives, and it's time for Republicans to start acting like it. We only need 4 House Republicans to join us to force a vote to fund Homeland Security and put an end to the chaos.
So there you go. There is Democrats' perspective on all of this. So this comes amid the Iran war, of course, national security, and also, continues to play a role in all of this. And I found the point that my mic ended up being muted at, so I want to replay what we were talking about. But there is Democrats' perspective there as Delta, I'll kind of recap this segment as well here. Delta now saying it is going to suspend special services for lawmakers amid this government shutdown, and they say they're going to do this. Essentially, Congress people can get kind of expedited services to get through the airport quickly. Now Delta saying they are no longer going to offer this amid this government shutdown, and TSA agents now on their second check not being paid. So lines at airports continuing to grow. This is yesterday at the George Bush Intercontinental Airport in Houston. Want to take you back to the big story that we were talking about a little before, and then our mic got muted. We have that little issue again. I apologize about that. So I do want to go back right now to the latest on the war in Iran. We talked about the special gift that the president got. I want to talk about now the ceasefire conversations that are ongoing. We showed you 2 different reporting, and I want to do that once again. So starting with this AP report offering this 15-point ceasefire plan to Iran. So there you go, that 15-point plan, though, allegedly rejected, as you'll see in this Washington Journal report. Quote, Iran plays hardball as mediators push for talks with U.S. We also talked about this new NBC News article coming out. We showed a picture of it, and I'll continue kind of describing it here and just kind of summarize it up for you, but essentially within that NBC News report, they say that maybe that they allege, or kind of say that sources say, that Trump receives a daily video briefing of successful U.S. strikes in Iran. The video only depicting successful strikes has led Trump allies to be concerned about his limited access to information regarding the ongoing war with Iran. They feared this could hinder his ability to make informed decisions about the conflict's progression and potential resolution, despite Trump's claims of receiving regular briefings from intelligence. So within this article also, Caroline Leavitt responded in a statement rejecting this entire notion, saying that Trump wants everyone to speak out and say their full, and he hopes that they say their full opinion when they are speaking to him within these intelligence briefings that he has received daily, and these policy meetings that he's also been receiving since this war has begun. We're going to sneak in another quick break. When we come back, Savannah Guthrie speaking out for the first time in an exclusive interview with NBC News following her mother going missing. That and more when we come back, right here on this edition of Brookland News Live. And welcome back live here at Brookland News Live on this Wednesday. March is almost over. It's March 25th, so we're tracking the latest there. Let me make sure this email is not important. One moment here. Sorry, it's coming in from Arkansas State Police. 1 second, I will bring you this story because it is actually going to be important. So stand by. You were watching the live news gathering operation. Just got a press release in from the Arkansas State Police on a fatal shooting involving an officer-involved shooting in Independence County, which here is in Northeast Arkansas. This story coming specifically from Batesville. So stick with us. Going to tease that article here coming up. I'm going to get that out to you here in just a moment. But we do want to turn to the story we told you we were going to talk about. Before we went into break, Savannah Guthrie now speaking out in the first interview since her mother went missing, as it now is day 53 at the hunt for her mother, Nancy Guthrie. 1-800-CALL-FBI is the number if you have any tips. Here is Guthrie in her first interview since all of this.
One of the moments from the interview where Savannah shared a message to anybody who may have information about Nancy.
Someone needs to do the right thing. We are in agony.
Yeah.
We are in agony. It is unbearable. And to think of what she went through. I wake up every night, in the middle of the night, every night. And in the darkness, I imagine her terror. And it is unthinkable, but those thoughts demand to be thought.
Yeah.
And I will not hide my face.
It's hard to watch. It really just kind of pulls the soul out of you because you just see, I mean, just the what she describes as agony, but you just see the pain that not only she, but I can imagine her sibling. She has a brother, she has a sister, that entire family, what they are facing. And you hear her also, she also in this interview, she kind of says, you know, you have to think about things that are the unthinkable. And so we brought you a statement she had yesterday, and now she's speaking out, and the full interview will air tomorrow on NBC's Today Show, so we'll probably have another clip of it. But again, it's really is so hard to watch. It's so hard to watch someone who has such faith now be put into a position where she's holding on to that faith in a moment like this. So to see her resilience, her continuance, her passion continue through all of this says a little bit of something, I think. So we'll continue following the hunt for Nancy Guthrie. You heard her there. Somebody has something. Somebody, knows something. If you do, you can contact 1-800-CALL-FBI. Again, that tip line is 1-800-CALL-FBI. Okay, we told you we were going to bring you this story earlier. This has to do with a very similar issue, very similar social media issue that we were talking about earlier with the Meta and YouTube. This one's going to be about Meta specifically, now ordered to pay $375 million after a jury finds the company guilty of malpractice. I want to play, this has to do with child safety. I want to play a report from KTVU in San Francisco.
The jury has delivered a landmark blow to Meta, finding the social media giant knowingly harmed children's mental health and hid what it knew about child sexual exploitation on its platforms, prioritizing profits over safety. And for more on today's impact and the verdict, we go to KTVU's Tom Bakar, live in San Rafael, with a closer look. Tom?
Put it in perspective this way. There are a lot of people inside social media companies, lots of them, that are working to make it safer and better for young children and for young adults. But very often, market share and money override.
Did Meta violate the Unfair Practices Act by engaging in an unconscionable trade practice? The jury's answer is yes.
The New Mexico Attorney General's office proved its case to a civil jury that awarded $375 million in damages. Meta's response, through a spokesperson, "We respectfully disagree with the verdict and will appeal." Larry Magid is a longtime Bay Area tech analyst, journalist, founder of Connect Safely, and a pioneer in online safety, especially for children.
I think that the verdict indicates that there was conviction.
There you go. There's just a piece of that report. See, I told you guys yesterday I got a new microphone. I'm going to learn the ins and the outs to hopefully not stay muted too long. But there you go. That report coming out saying that, talking about this malpractice of prioritizing, the jury kind of essentially saying you prioritized money and your platform over children's safety. Of course, this comes as multiple social media platforms now unleashing new rules for teens. I know on my phone I have a few of those where my parents are able to see things like DMs and things like that. I know Instagram also has a rule, I believe, where your account has to be private if you're under 16 or 16, and they find that you violated children's, or you have to have parents on it to have a public account. That's where I'm trying to go to. Sorry about that, you guys. So this is something that we are going to continue to follow because it for sure is a story that is continuing to come up in more of these court cases that we are following. So it is going to be a story that we will continue to follow. That is for sure. Well, after that plane crash on Sunday night, we actually have some video we want to show you of it, I believe. Here you go. Here's some video showing you guys some of... There we go. Sorry about that, you guys. After that Air Canada crashed with the fire truck at LaGuardia in New York, Air Canada passengers aboard that Air Canada Express aircraft now reacting. Take a look. Okay, change of plans here. It looks as if we're having a few difficulties with taking a look. Give me just one moment, guys. Let me check on this. video. It looks like we're having some issues with the specific video here from those Air Canada passengers weighing in, reacting to all of this. I'll get the video to you here in just a moment. It is somewhere in here. The question is finding it. I believe it is this video right here. Again, guys, give me just one moment here. This is kind of, it is not that video. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. I apologize about us not having that video prepared for you. We're gonna sneak in a quick break. On the other side, we'll have our complete version of this story with the video. We're back here in just a moment.
For me, it was, when you land a plane, there's always a lot of loud noise. And when you're on a new plane, especially a small plane, you may not be familiar with the kind of noises that you're hearing. And so it sounded a little bit louder than normal, maybe, but it's a small plane and they all sound different. Sounded like maybe the brakes were being pulled harder than usual, but it's always hard to tell. And then as my daughter asked a question like, when did you know there was trouble? And my answer to that was when my face hit the seat in front of me. That's when I knew there was some trouble. And the plane kind of went back and forth.
Coming in pretty fast. It was like a regular flight, like always. But as we were arriving, we came down really hard, and then we stopped really quickly, and then in about 2 seconds later, we just had an absolute slam. Everybody was flying everywhere. I mean, the plane started veering off left and right, and there was, it was chaos. I mean, it didn't feel like there was anybody in control of anything, and. But looking back on it, the pilot did the best thing he could. He hit the brakes as hard as he could, and he knew it was going to be at the cost of his own life.
Well, I think for context, we were all, the whole plane was frustrated because there was a delay. We were supposed to take off at 8 p.m. and we took off around 10:30 p.m. So we were waiting, and the flight is very short. It was a normal flight, nothing crazy, and then you know, landing, I was listening to music, looking out the window, and expecting a normal landing, and the landing itself was pretty rough. The impact was greater than normal, but nothing to be too concerned of. But then the pilots broke, they hit the brakes, and that's when I knew it was something significant, because I was jerked forward pretty hard.
There you go, passengers weighing in on that crash that occurred over the weekend. We'll continue to follow the investigation there that the NTSB is now taking on. No press conference from them today, and then we brought you that yesterday. Alrighty, we do have some more news out of President Trump's home state and where he resides when he's in Florida at Mar-a-Lago. A Democrat winning the seat that actually represents Mar-a-Lago. There you go. Democrat Emily Gregory winning that seat, 51% to John Maples, the Republican there, flipping that seat, 48%. So the Democrat there flipping that seat that holds President Trump. We also have some news right before we go, because we're also learning that President Trump voted by mail in this election. What is so interesting about that, and why you might be asking, why is that so important, Jackson? Well, within this SAFE Act, the bill would prohibit universal mail voting, requiring all male voters to submit an application in order to receive a mail ballot. This would end the long-standing principal method of voting in 8 states and Washington, D.C. So that is going to be interesting to see how things play out. Of course, we wanted to bring you that part of the story as well, because President Trump has been for the SAFE Act and against mail-in voting for most of his time as the president and as a politician. Want to take you outside right now, get you a look at your forecast before we leave ya. Things are going to warm up. It feels pretty good today, but then we're going to see some scattered showers by Friday. Tonight, overnight look looking at about 62. By Thursday, high of 87, low of 62. So spring temperatures are for sure here now. Friday's high of 65, low of 40, as we are going to see a few scattered showers throughout the day. We will continue to update our forecast here on where those showers look like on Friday. Could it be severe weather? We don't quite know just yet, but we will bring you updates on that when we get here. Remember, you can join us each and every weekday at 2 p.m. Central. Thank you all for joining us in the meantime. We'll see you right back here tomorrow with much more news. Again, that is 2 p.m. every weekday. We're back here tomorrow. Bye, guys.